Because, we get caught up. We want to do everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's sacrifices that are made, especially when business is at the highest impact. You want to maximize that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I will make a lot of sacrifices in order to keep that momentum going, because nothing should be taken for granted. No one could care tomorrow. No one could care tomorrow. So I'm going to enjoy it now at this second.
Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationship Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we've got some heat today.
We've got a really fun Mother's Day episode. You could call it heat, or you could just call it a fun Mother's Day episode.
I could call it that. I don't really know how to do like fire emojis when I talk. It was a fun episode. Like she's fiery,
but it was much more about motherhood, and it's very inspiring in terms of like maybe you want to have a career and be a mom. Maybe you just had your first child. Maybe you're pregnant and you're fearful about moving into this next phase and having to let go of everything that you know yourself to be. And there are certain versions of yourself that you are going to have to let go of for sure. You have less time to yourself. You are going to have to transition in certain ways. But I think the most inspiring takeaway from this is that you don't need to let go of your career, your passions outside of being a mom. And there are a lot of tips in here on how to stay connected to your partner, et cetera. It's amazing. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think that's why this was such a good one for me is you and Natalie are so close anyway, but also this conversation that we're having in here about women fully stepping into their power on both sides, right? So we hear a lot about women's empowerment in terms of being able to go into the workforce and breaking through the ceiling and all that stuff, but not often about the combination of both of those. How do I become the best mom and the best kind of entrepreneur and businesswoman ever? And before we dive really deeply into it, I want to read y'all the review of the week. And this one comes from EOG424. Everyone should be listening to this podcast. I fully agree, Eliza. I fully agree with that. It's hard to put into words the power of the podcast these two magnificent humans are making every week. Damn. I think all my friends are sick of hearing me talk about the psychologist from UCLA and his free spirit wife, because I pretty much recommend this podcast to everyone I meet. This is not only for parents or spouses or what have you. I am a 20-year-old single college girl, and this podcast is everything to me. Humility, wisdom, insight, humor, and thought about social justice, crystals, addiction, body image, and everything in between. And always so raw, so real, and so refreshing. I'm so much of the person I am today because of listening to these two loving souls for the past year. If there were more people like Sophie and Adi, the world would be a better place. With love and appreciation to you both, Eliza.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Man, I wish Eliza was here to mic drop.
Oh, wow.
That was awesome. Thank you for that. I know we tell you guys this, but Eliza, these sorts of messages from you make our week, our month, and make us want to do more of this.
So, happy Mother's Day to all the mamas. You've made it this far. You're still alive. No, but really.
It's like a video game. You still have more lives.
Yeah. I think it's motherhood. Like, I have a quote actually about this, but there isn't one formula. It doesn't have to be rules. It's this intuitive process of really tuning into what makes you feel the most joy. If that means staying at home with your kids, awesome. If that changes halfway through, great. Really tuning into what your path is as a mother and not what someone says you should do or what you think you should do.
Read the quote.
So the quote is, and this is from Uma Mother, which is a doula who lives here. She's a pregnancy coach and doula here in LA. And it's at Uma Mother on Instagram. Parenting is not a science. It's an art. Complicated, confusing, frustrating, heartbreaking, and heart-filling. Beautiful art. So just love your family and paint your way. And I can't read. It says Christina Kuzmik as the person who said that. And it says, ditch the formulas, embrace the adventure, discover the unique souls you get to call your children, learn how to listen, laugh, forgive, and love yourself more. You've chosen the accelerated path of evolution. Paint away. I love that so much. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I love that, especially because that's so not the message I feel like so many of us get early on. It's the opposite. It's like, here's the formula. Here's how you're supposed to do this. And we all get a different formula from our parents and whoever else is in our lives. And then, I don't know about you guys listening, but then inevitably we don't follow the formula perfectly. And then we feel like screw ups and we feel like we're messing things up. But to get the freedom to know that you get to write your own.
Just like we do it in our relationship. We talk about this all the time. You get to write the rule book for your relationship, just as you get to write the rule book for how you parent. And I think even more specifically, you get to write the rule book for each child. Our children are different. There are way different ways that we parent Kai than we do Leo. And I'm sure it'll be way different with Noah because she's her own being. And
we kind of parent Kai by waking up.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best, but he still has his stuff, and they're different children, and the way that we parent them is unique to the individual, and that's where I think this quote really came alive for me, is just in the way that we have had to parent them differently, and how it's an evolution, just like you and I in our relationship. Like, the rules for our relationship have changed this year than they were 4 years ago. Doesn't
the experience of parenting give you so much of a different perspective on our own parents?
For sure.
I mean, in so many ways, right? Like when I was younger, especially when I was really young, like my parents were these gods. They could do no wrong. They knew the answer to everything. They would be the best source of advice for anything I could have wanted. And as I aged, it flipped to all of a sudden I rebelled and hated everything that they said. But now I know that as they went through this experience, they were just trying to do their best.
Absolutely.
Just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I actually wrote my mom and dad a text this morning while we were talking to our first interviewee. And I just was like, thank you so much I'll read it to you. But I basically was thanking them for the way they parented me, because for all the shitty things they did, for getting a divorce, for all the things that I feel like I can blame and shame and feel annoyed and embarrassed of or angry about, and all those resentments that I hold on to of what they did wrong, they clearly did something right. Like, not to toot my own horn, but like...
You just did.
I did. No, but I mean, really, when speaking to these spiritual practitioners, these doctors, these scientists, and all these people that are looking for the spiritual path, and I'm secure. I'm confident for whatever they did wrong, they did one thing right. And that I don't question, I'm not a fear-based thinker. Maybe I was born that way, but it
so
had to have something to do with them.
Sure, but it's also so interesting that like your brother and you grew up in the same house.
And we're different, 100% different.
So different. I mean, Katie grew up primarily, like your sister grew up in a similar house. Like,
it's who you are. It's 100% nature, 100% nurture, right? I came into this world as who I am, whatever that means.
And then your parents contributed whatever they contributed. And as we talked about when we talked about Bruce, when we talked with Bruce Lipton, when you were in the womb, the shit.
When you're in the womb, past life experiences. Who were you before this lifetime?
Totally.
It all counts. It all matters. And I just sent that. I've never sent my mom and dad a text on the same, even like I sent it on the same thing, like to mom to dad. Yeah.
Wait, like on the same
text. Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't respond, of course, but she did. And hopefully he sees it. But the point was just like thanking them and just like, thanks for making me who I am and the things that make me amazing. Like you had a part in that, and thank you for that.
Yeah. And I think we're so quick. I used to be so quick to judge my parents for what they should have done, what things should have looked like.
They did their best.
They just did their best.
Yeah.
And, my parents, I mean, you were young when you had the kids too, when you had Kai and Leo. My mom was like 24 when she had me. I didn't know shit at 24.
Yeah, I was 26. I was 25 when I got pregnant with Kai. Like,
I barely knew how to open the mail and pay bills at 24. Yep. Like, my parents had kids. It's a miracle that it's a miracle and it's part of the art, like you just talked about in that quote, that we just sort of step up to the plate and we just show up, and our priorities shift as soon as kids show up to the picture, and we just kind of do what needs to happen.
And also it's like that teacher-student dynamic where they're our teacher and staying in the headspace of that. Like, we're not dictators. We're not their boss. Like, that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
We are creating this art together. The art is our lives, and we're creating it one step at a time. And they came into this world as their own little spirits. Leo and Kai are exactly who they were as babies today. Energetically, they are those same little beings.
Yeah.
Feisty Leo since minute one, more cerebral Kai since day one. It's so fascinating. And all we're here to do is nurture them, take care of them, keep them safe, and allow them to be the best versions of who they are without us getting in their way.
Remember that video of Kai teaching Leo how to ohm?
Yeah.
Just
not like this, Leo.
cross your legs.
Cross your legs. Like this, Leo.
If we can have a link to that video, we're going to put it up because it's just going to make your day.
It's the sweetest
watching
thing.
Kai trying to teach Leo, who isn't speaking yet, how to ohm.
Good, Leo, but more like this.
So
like
cute.
this, his little accent.
Totally. He was a teacher even back then.
So much a teacher.
So that's, when you were talking to Natalie in this interview, so much of what you guys talked about, because I really took a back seat this time.
Yeah.
Because
two mamas getting at it.
But also, again, it's right. It's like moms and entrepreneurs in the same breath.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about having to choose a role. It's not about one being more important than another.
Well, that's the thing is for Natalie and I, like you said in the beginning, like, I love that you guys are such good friends. We're not that good of friends. We have a deep understanding for each other. And we're very much on the same wavelength of like, no judgment. You do the best you can. We love to work and have our own businesses, and we love to be parents. We love to be with our babies, and we're really great moms and pride ourselves on that. And I think we just have a lot of parallels in our lives. And so when we get together, it's just an understanding.
Yeah. And you could see that in the interview.
Yeah.
There's, again, I talk about this quote, but it really hit me this morning when we were walking around back from coffee. We talked about so many different aspects that have changed between the way we were raised and us, right? I mean, we did this with the kids too, with Kai and Leo. I'm saying like Noah is now like a different entity because it's been so long since we had a baby, etc. But even with Kai and Leo, we would go for a walk in the morning and go grab coffee, pushing the stroller. And we were talking on the way back about the shift in mom-dad roles and expectations and man-woman roles. And, for a while, I probably would have been not embarrassed, but it would have been weird for me to say, like, for the last year and a half, you've been the primary breadwinner. I'm not. I'm trying to start a new business. The last business did not really bring in money anyway. If anything, it put me in debt.
And added so much stress to your life.
And that is so much stress. So at least now a lot of the stress is gone, but it's still not making money. And so you talked about this a little bit with Natalie in the interview. Like when you were starting philosophy and it wasn't bringing in money, I was holding down the fort, and now you're holding down the fort. And there's a really nice, in everything from what I just said, from walking to get coffee in the morning and kind of allowing ourselves to step into the morning with presence and shared space instead of, I got to rush to my job, you got to rush to yours.
Yeah.
And holding the space for our family primarily, right? So that's where it starts, is with us spending time together with our baby. All the way to not permission, but allowing the fluidity between which one of us is supporting primarily. And obviously we hope it gets to a place where we're both providing in strong ways.
But and I just have to say, like, I know that this has come up a few times between us personally, but I really do believe that it takes so much more to maintain a household, a home, a relationship, and be parents, be co-parents. Then the financial aspect is one small aspect. Okay, I've checked that off for now. Things could change and fluctuate. But to me, when you show up and do more around the house and take on more of those chores that like I would normally be doing, or you say, you go do your self-care so I can take the kids, you've been killing it lately, whatever it is, those gestures, A, make me more turned on. So it decreases that kind of tension between us. And B, makes me honored and happy to contribute more financially and work my ass off in that way because you take on. And I think sometimes it comes off as nagging when I'm like, you need to do more around the house. Like, this isn't enough. But that's not the reason I'm doing it, is not for that reason. I could easily hire someone to come do that. It's energetically, it should be 50-50 in my opinion and yours. We've come to this agreement together that it's a 50-50 relationship. We're both in this together. So I think that it's not just about that one thing. And I think an old school mentality is the breadwinner, the one that brings in, you know, but there's so much that comes into a dynamic, happy household and family, and you stepping in. And when I really see you do it without me having to ask you, whether it's putting the laundry away completely, doing the laundry from A to Z, you know, cleaning something, organizing something of the kids, like the times I have to ask you to do that, and I'm sure a lot of wives and husbands probably can like relate to this, is like, we don't want to be nags. It's an energetic thing. We only have so much to put out, right?
Yeah.
And it's a partnership. And I think that with Natalie, that was something that we definitely talked about, is like that support. She called him like a silent partner at one point. And then she's like, but he's not really silent because he has a lot to say about this and that and helps me. But it is that silent support that I got your back. We're in this together. And that allows you to then have the freedom to leap.
Sure. And it absolutely is old programming. And as we know, old programming can sometimes get stuck, and it takes practice. It takes sometimes time, sometimes intensity, oftentimes both, right? And so like when we hit those flash points, you go, God damn it, and it becomes a fight for a moment. That's one of those intensity moments to level up.
Right.
So when we had that, whatever, a month ago or something, is when we instituted, you know, me doing dinner on Tuesdays and Fridays, because I wasn't. And so we've had very haphazard kind of meals at home because, you know, you're loaded up and you have everything that you're doing. And sometimes you have events in the evening, and sometimes, and that's when I get off of work. So it'd be this haphazard way of just barely feeding the kids, like making food for the kids and not even worrying about our own meal.
Exactly.
Versus showing up. And so every time that we have one of those flash moments, things level up. And then hopefully there's consistency in maintaining that level.
Right.
And refinement. And then level up again until, you know, until things end up at I don't want to call it even a plateau, but like
just allowing
each
person saying what their needs are to level up and have the best. We're a team. We're in this together.
I was not raised in a 50-50 parenting.
Right.
Like in any way, shape, or form. No, I mean, you can roll your eyes. I get it. But I'm saying it was so far from 50-50
right.
That's
why the eye roll, because it's like, that's not even a comparison here. Like you comparing that is like, your dad was not around. It's just a whole different experience.
It's a whole different experience, but it's the programming.
Sure.
You know, we talked to Bruce, like up to 7 years old, like that was the programming. Like
for sure.
I didn't see my dad. I knew what his role was in the family.
Right.
And I'm saying for a lot of people who are listening right now, you have programming, some of which you know you want to change, and the rest of it, you know, I did an episode on the Friday podcast once about like getting outside assessment of how you're doing. That can be tough sometimes because we definitely buy our own bullshit all the time. Like if you don't get any outside perspective, 100%. You can buy your own shit on a regular basis. Like this is the truth. This is how I'm supposed to live. It's always been like this. My parents did it this way. Their grandparents did it this way.
That's why it's so good to have people around you constantly that love you and are also like, will call you on your shit. Like all my best friends that I consider closest will call me on my shit.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, that's kind of out of integrity. I don't think you should be doing that. Are you sure that's what you want to be doing? And I'm like, okay, you're right.
At least you get to check yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least you get to check yourself, which is always a good idea.
Another thing that we talked about with Natalie is, you know, ways to keep the coupleship activated and ignited, and how everything trickles out from that relationship, and how that spark between Natalie and her husband is what created these humans to begin with. So how do you keep that flame ignited? And she said that one of her self-care rituals is having sex, like just being vulnerable with her partner. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, how it can be a self-care ritual for sure in terms of releasing anxiety and stress.
Yeah, you told me a long time ago that when we first met, I was the first person that kind of introduced that concept to you. And then we went through our own turmoil, and that ended up extinguishing the flame actually on that sexual raw energy to some extent, because now there were all these hurdles in the way.
Right.
But obviously a lot of the work that we've done, we keep doing because it's an ongoing process, is on cutting away all those walls and all those hindrances and connecting sexually and physically, because not only is it good for anxiety and reducing that in a really physical sense, it creates a deeper connection between us, which then leads to more support and more of that 50-50 piece we're talking about.
And it's funny that even that sexual energy between us, when it's not just about us, it's everything else trickles out from our relationship. So if we're doing well in all forms, including sexually, but in all forms, if we're communicating well, if we're getting what we need from each other, if we feel supported by one another, everyone on our team, in our world, in our, in the micro of our universe, we are the nucleus. We are the center of it all. So if we're feeling solid in all ways and connected, everyone else feels that. Our Ignited podcast does better. Our communication does better. Our, in all aspects, it's so great. Our children feel it. We're more in love. We're more touchy. We're more connected.
Totally. And part of the whole thing around sex is we are constantly trying new things to make it more connected, more intense, more of how we want it to feel like, right? There's an experience that we're trying to create there.
Right. And the vulnerability. And I think for me personally, as someone who just went through having a baby for the third time, I've had lots of ebbs and flows in my sexuality with a D and with myself. And I think having certain tools to inspire me or get things going, like we've been using Woo lately, which is a coconut oil based lube basically, but it's like this fun stuff that smells good, tastes good. It has a touch of stevia in it. You can eat it.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can eat it as frosting.
And thank you guys for the stevia, because I got to tell you, like eating out and having dessert is it's like a nice little bonus to just have that sweetness thrown in. So thank you very much for making the whole sexual experience a little desserty. Yeah,
it's a little desserty, and it says like coconut oil, vanilla essence, beeswax, and stevia. That's it. And again,
I could taste a little vanilla.
Yeah.
Last time.
You're ridiculous. Yeah, but
I'm being totally serious.
No, I know. It's great. I love the stevia. The vanilla and the stevia is a great bonus.
It is.
I think really it's about just keeping things clean and simple. But for me, most importantly, is just having different tools in my toolbox in everything. But sexually, sometimes I'm just not in the mood. And sometimes my body, like I just finished breastfeeding and I'm like, the last thing I want to do is transition right now, but I know we should, and should in the best way, like this is going to connect us. This is going to elevate us. This is going to make us closer, make us laugh. Like it'll give something on the other side. And I know that, but to get there, that bridge, sometimes I need something that's a tool like a vibrator or like Woo, which can help just get you even like the sensations of it and the ritual of it. It just allows you to connect more fully and step into that sexy feeling instead of it feeling like abrupt. And like Natalie said, that vulnerability and that like just the act itself is self-care.
Yeah. And we talked about this before. Look, you all know this. There are a few habits in life that you try to put in and instill, and sometimes they feel perfect and they flow exactly the way you want them to. And other times you do them because you know the benefit that you're going to get. And when you've been with somebody, she's been with Vlad 15 years, we've been together 15 years. Look, let's be honest about it. You don't always every single day feel like the most amazing spark ever. But if you know that there are things that keep the relationship better, more connected and improved, it's part of your responsibility almost to put those things into play as often as you can.
Use different tools. We even talk about therapy in this episode. Therapy shouldn't be something that you use as a crutch for the rest of your relationship. It shouldn't be like we go as maintenance here and there. And the only reason we don't go more often is because our therapist passed away. But we learned so much from Mark, and all the therapy that we've done throughout the years have served as teachings to give us tools to come together and be the best versions of who we are.
I think an important lesson from this too is use multiple tools, right? Yeah. Don't rely only on sex to keep your relationship close.
Absolutely.
Don't only rely on talking to a therapist once a week to keep your relationship close. The idea, and this I'm borrowing this from my ex-partner, Mark, this idea that like I'm putting my hand together as like a claw, and you put if you can put your hand with 5 fingers down as the base, and you got 5, 10 different tools that you use regularly.
Yeah.
We exercise together. We go to coffee together to connect. We have date night. We have sex. We have woo. We have all these different, we go to the movies, whatever that, we read a book together.
Yeah.
All those things. If you have 10, 15 things to rely on, here's the beauty of it. You might have fallen off 3 or 4, but you still have 12 that are happening in your life, and you're still pretty strong. Then 3 of the other ones fall off, and you bring in a couple that had been missing for a while, and your relationship is always strengthened and reinforced.
Yeah. And then if one thing isn't working out, then you've got all these other things to fall back on.
100%.
Like, oh, we haven't had date night in a long time, but you know what? Like, all these other things are happening, and I feel really good and solid, even though we're not doing that date. Oh, it's crazy. And that's how it works with wellness too. Like, just because I don't work out for a few days doesn't mean I instantly get fat or I'm not strong anymore. Well, no, I have lots of ways to feel strong. Totally. I have lots of ways to feel good in my skin, from nutrition to sleep to water to there's so many sunshine. There's so many aspects to feeling good in your body, and these are just some of them.
Absolutely. So we're going to go into this little Mama's Day special with Natalie here. Stay tuned. Go to the other side and take notes, guys, because these are 2 powerful women who are embodying what it means to be liberated and free to make your own choices in life. Pay attention. There's a lot here that you can use to step into your own power, whether you're a man or a woman, by the way. This says everything.
Absolutely. I think the point here is parenthood doesn't have rules. You make them up with your person, your partner. If you decide to have a baby with a partner, you make them up one step at a time. There is no rule book, and you get to decide what brings you joy as a parent.
#truth.
See you on the other side. This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fixes all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the conversation part of today's amazing Ignited Relationships podcast. We have a dear, dear, dear friend. I always say this, but I love it when we have really close friends on, because these conversations are literally the reason why we started the Ignited podcast. We have such amazing friends that do so much amazing work in the world. And then we ended up sitting around like our Palm Springs hangouts, and we just have really great conversations. And I feel like literally Sophie and I one day went, well, it was more like I went, hey, Sophie, we got to record more of these. And Sophie said, that sounds like a great idea, but I don't really want to do any of that. And so then it took me a couple of years to get us to actually being able to sit down with people like you, Natalie, and expose what you're doing, but then also just the conversations we have, because it always goes deep and it always ends up having meaning behind it to the greater world. So Natalie Alcala, you run Fashion Mamas.
Whoop, whoop.
Which
yes,
is
I do.
Organization Sophie has been part of kind of like from the beginning.
Yeah, day one.
She's an OG for sure.
And obviously, I mean, when people hear Fashion Mamas, they have a specific kind of idea of what that is in mind, but it goes far beyond fashion and moms. It's like the end all be all for strong entrepreneurial women who are also moms and are changing the world. So take it away and let other people know what Fashion Mamas is about, what you're about.
Well, Adi, you're hired. You pretty much nailed it.
Right?
So Fashion Mamas, it's a community for influential mothers who work in fashion, art, design, media, and entertainment. And the reason why we kind of fall into that specific niche of industries is that I really, really want to encourage productive connecting. So, there's so many beautiful motherhood communities out there, and I love that. There's more room for everyone. But what makes ours a little bit different is that we really do target those industries so that women can feel that when they come to our events, they can connect with other women that they can really do business with, make relationships with, and kind of have those productive conversations. So it's been really, really a whirlwind. It's going to be our 5-year anniversary in December.
Amazing.
That's crazy. I launched it when my son was 3 months old. So when I see my gigantic son now, I'm like, you and my business are growing up so fast.
Totally.
And so we started with 10 members, and now we have 600 members across the world, from like Austin to Australia.
So dope.
It's pretty crazy. And then so we have monthly events for the members that live in our event chapters, but we also have a digital clubhouse via our Facebook group where members connect. And we also have mentor sessions. So we send out notes to all members, and they can keep that information. We're all about supporting these women on their entrepreneurial journey to make sure that they feel like they can continue growing their businesses while also growing humans.
Yeah. And I personally, for the first time, so if it's 5 years old, Kai is 8.5. So, for a solid 3.5 years, I struggled to find my community of moms. I went to mom groups, I went to Gymboree, I went to the pump station. I did my best to find my community, and I honestly couldn't find it. And those are great organizations and great gatherings of moms and parenthood and resources. However, I didn't feel quite at home, and I didn't, a lot of those moms were stay-at-home moms, and I couldn't resonate. I couldn't relate. And it was fun for the moment because I was bonding with my child, but there's a different level when you do feel like you were talking about in the beginning, actually invested, connected. Every time that we get together with you and Fashion Mamas in the group setting, I walk away with feeling more comfortable owning who I am as a working mom, that there's no guilt, that I don't feel necessarily like I'm doing something, quote, wrong. I'm just a great mom who also is passionate about other things in my own career. And that doesn't mean I'm selfish. And if it does, that's not a bad thing. And it doesn't mean that I'm less of a mom because I don't homeschool my children or stay home with them all day. It's what fills me up. And there's other moms like me. And I think that wherever you are on your motherhood journey, whether you are a mom of 5 and you stay at home with your kids and homeschool, or if you have a career or several careers and you show up to the best you can, everything along the spectrum is perfect as long as you are aligned with what you really need as a mom to feel fulfilled and not like you're living a life of resentment or pain or what if. And I think that your Fashion Mama's creation gave me a place to feel at home within myself. And I really appreciate that. And I think that there's something to be said about that for every stage of motherhood and for every type of mom, that there's a group and an organization for you. And I'm just so grateful for you as a friend and for Fashion Mamas. So thank you.
Well, that makes me so emotional because hearing stories like that, very similar stories of women saying they didn't find their home, their tribe. And then what's so beautiful, in addition to hearing the message out loud that I didn't feed to anyone, and hearing you guys have your own stories behind it. And then the added layer of you guys are all badass women that they put the egos aside, and you're like, I am a human being first and foremost, is so beautiful. And look, every single woman in our group, because it's so tightly curated, 600 women, that's a lot of women to assume that we have it very tightly curated.
It is, though.
I think for 5 years in, and we have just 600 members, I think that's a small community.
Yeah.
I think we have a 300-person waiting list. I review every single application still to this day. There are layers of a process of being accepted because we are a judgment-free zone. We want these women to leave their egos at the door because every single woman from the get-go has incredibly impressive careers. But it's not going to work if everyone acts like they're entitled and everyone thinks that their answer of motherhood and business is the right answer only. Mm-hmm. And if these women can walk into the room and they're like, wow, every single woman in this room is a badass. I'm not here to pick them apart. And I'm not here to make myself feel less than because I know that they're not picking me apart. Yeah. And that's what makes it like put all the bullshit aside and they can really make magic together, like truly, like BS-free magic and support one another. So hearing stories like that really move me, especially from people I admire myself.
Yeah.
So Natalie, what in your past, what you needed made you want to go out and do something like this? I mean, I love so much of what you guys were saying, and Sophie and I were just having a conversation this morning, you know, to me is almost about shifting the expectation of what women are and what they can do and what they can accomplish, because we still, even if the programming is being overwritten, we were just talking about this morning, Soph, on our walk, a lot of us are still kind of stuck in 50s concepts of what men and women do.
Yep.
So, you know, men are the breadwinners. They go out, they're hardly ever home. They work and they work and they work, and their job is to put money in the bank account so that the women whose job it is to stay at home and take care of the kids in the household can do what they do. And I'm saying that as we all understand that concept is shifting, but it's the reason it's shifting is because it's so programmed into our brain that those are the roles. What allowed you in what you're doing to move out of that, and not only move out of that in your own head, but move into a place where you said to yourself, I'm going to start an entire organization to do that and allow women to have this space where entrepreneurial, badass, kick-ass women who are moms. So it's not like a regular entrepreneurial women, like let's empower women to do what they do, because even in those organizations, a lot of time, women complain all the time. I hear this about, well, you're still expected to not have kids or have kids till really, really late, because once you have kids, you have to put your work and your career on hold.
Yeah.
But for you, that was an all in. You went into saying, I'm going to take entrepreneurial moms who are creative and badass and do that. What was the impetus for it? What made you believe that it was possible? What created that in your head?
That's a very good question. So I've always been, like, from the get-go, been a woman's woman or a girl's girl. Just like I want to empower women. I feel like my superpower, my calling in life is to empower women. I really feel that I love lifting people up. I want everyone to win that I love. I want them to win.
Yeah.
But so, like, with that said, I didn't know if I was ever going to be a mother. I didn't sit and think about if I was going to be a mother. I sat and thought about, it's okay if I'm never a mother. We didn't have this very long conversation, me and my husband. After getting married, we tried, and after a year, I was pregnant, and I feel very grateful that it worked out that way. But I was also okay with not having a child if that was going to be where my life's path was. Now, that being said, in the middle of all of that, a year before I had my first, I'm this fashion editor, traveling the world, going to every party, the most free schedule ever. I worked from home. Me and my husband knew how to be kid-free. Like, we had the time of our lives. I didn't know what to do as a mother. I had never held a baby before my son, Diego. So I didn't know where to start. Isn't that wild? I didn't know where to start. And I was like, you know what? There seems to not be a modern mirror for the mother that's like me. And I felt that, what if I was able to fully embrace my very busy career, save for jumping on planes all the time? I knew that was going to change. while also embracing this new unexpected journey of being a mother. Let's see if I can do both. So I decided to go full on, embrace the pregnancy, embrace the bump, the curves. And then I didn't have any friends that were mothers. I saw like Nicole Richie and Rachel Zoe, like those people. And to me, I was like, they seem like they were all career first too, but they embraced it, and something happens in your body that you're just like, I'm going to give it a try and see what happens. I was like, how can I connect fully? I needed that support myself to be able to feel that I can do this. I needed a tribe around me. They didn't all have to be mothers, but I wanted to experiment against and see if I can connect other women that were the designers in my industry, the stylists in my industry, the models in my industry. Just that extra layer of ice breaking, of being like, okay, let's talk business too, but also how the hell am I going to like breastfeed? How do I do that? How do I do any of that? And also, do you guys know any sitters? Because Fashion Week's coming up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, can we like get a sitter and all like pitch in together?
Yeah.
Like those conversations were so important to me, to have those two layers of connection, because I felt that I wasn't just a mom. And I don't mean that in a negative way to mothers that feel like this is their whole world. I just mean that in my life, I'm a woman before anything. I'm a woman before anything. I'm a career-driven woman, and I happen to be a mother, and I'm also a wife to the man I love. And I just feel that I wanted women that have that individual fire within them to stay true to themselves, as cliche as that sounds, by being able to really not feel guilty about talking about work in the same conversation about their kids. So when I was able to connect to those women, and it was more of like, being an editor, I had produced so many networking mixers and events. I hosted a huge Coachella event for Racked, which I was the editor of, way before I had kids. So the event and community building was already there. It was already happening. So, excuse me, when I had our launch brunch, and I say that with quotes because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, let me connect all the women I don't really like fully know. Like they're not like my tight friends, but they're people I admire in my industry that are mothers. Let's have brunch. Let's see if they care to be around each other. And the conversations there were so amazing. It was so special. And they wanted more of it. And I wanted more of it. I wanted to see them more because I felt like, oh, this is great. Like I can be my full self and still dress up nice because like I said, I'm a woman first. I care about myself. And, we can get them together, but it's not just a play date because I have some business questions too. And I wanted to just see how I can help them. Word spread very, very fast. They started telling their friends, and my business side and my super nerdy coding side, I build all my websites. I put up a membership application on the site, and I was like, let's just see if anyone cares. And that's always the story, right? You're like, will anyone buy the thing that you make? Yeah. And overnight, 10 members turned into 100 in that first year, and they were all paid members. And the fee was very low at the time because you're just experimenting with it. But there was nothing like the fire inside me to build these events every month for these girls and meet these new women that are like lifelong friends now. And their little ones are now so tight. And some of them have built new businesses together. The mothers have built new businesses together. So I always have said I'm going to stop when it's not fun anymore. But I really feel like it's getting even more fun. I'm more tired than ever, but it's getting more fun than ever too.
That's exactly my mantra too. It's like it's over when it isn't fun anymore. And honestly, it's even like that in our marriage. We're like, we're in this 100%. Unless we're not having fun anymore and we're not in love. If one of us isn't in love anymore, bye. I don't want to be with you if you're not in love with me. Like I want you to go be happy and be in love with your life and enjoy. And same with career, same with anything.
I love that.
Step fully in it, be present to it, And then if something changes and it doesn't feel like it's right for you at this moment anymore, move on. We have the luxury of picking what we want to do in our lives. We live in LA. We live in this, we don't live in necessarily in LA, at least in the creative world, a 9-to-5 society anymore. We don't. We answer emails at midnight and, you know, we take a call at 2 p.m. because our baby's napping. Like, we can do that. And we have the luxury to pick and choose what we want to do based on us, not on what society says.
So well said. I feel very, very fortunate. All of the layers of before I continue is there. I feel very extremely fortunate that I have the choice. I feel fortunate that this came to me, that the universe brought this to me. This concept, I feel very fortunate that, you know, I'm able to be with both of my children and incorporate them into my business. Like, I always called Diego, my firstborn, that he's my boss.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who inspired all of this. When I look at him, I'm like, you drive me crazy. I'm also like, but you are everything. Like, you are the reason why this all exists. You are my calling. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's something about it. Just, I don't know. I never thought I would be here ever. I never did. But that's what's so cool. I don't know what next year holds, you know? I love that about that. But what you were saying about marriage is so, it's so true. I've been with my husband for 15 years. We were together for 10 years before we got married. Mm-hmm. So he knew me when I was a little one. You know what I mean? Like, he knew me when I didn't drive yet. And I drove late in life. So I was 21. He threw my 21st birthday. You know what I mean?
It's funny. We knew each other when you were 20.
I had a fake ID when we met.
So cute, right? Yeah. When I was 20. And so he's seen me working in my office jobs and at lunch break writing stories because my passion was writing. It still is. And then I'll see me as an entrepreneur. And for him to also check his ego and also be proud of me and cheer me on is a big, big deal, because that's a requirement for my life, for my marriage. And I do the same for him. I want him to win too.
Mm-hmm. Were you always able to step outside of the expectations and the way things are supposed to be? And I'm putting that in air quotes. You said that you never would have imagined the way life is now. Were you able to always kind of go with the flow, or were things more rigid for you at an earlier point in time and you found a way to let go?
I thought I was going to be like the editor-in-chief of a comparable magazine to Vogue or something. I thought I was going to continue going up the ladder of my editorial career. I reached the peak of like success and gratitude with Racked, building that community. I loved it so much, but I was losing my own spark in that. You know, like we were talking about, when it's not fun anymore. There was something in me that I was like, I need more. I need more. When you have a child, you guys know, you are so much more productive because you make quicker decisions, because the less time you can have away from your little ones and the faster you can make your decisions. Even like with nap time, how much I can get done when Rio is napping is beyond.
Well, they always say if you want something done, ask the busiest person you know.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. It's priorities too.
Yeah. So, but as I've gotten older, because I feel like I've reached these benchmarks in my life, my personal life, of what I consider success, I'm here for the ride. Like, I feel like I cannot believe, you know, at 35, these are the things that have happened in my life that I've wished into my life and worked my ass off. And now I'm here for the ride, and I have already built up such a roster of memories that all I can feel is gratitude all the freaking time now.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I think parenting also adds that layer. I mean, it's, you know, being a mom and being a dad, like we go through our days together and talk about memories with the kids or look at photos. And we've done that as like a ritual since Kai was a baby, and just share, you know, luckily now Adi's around a lot more and works from home. Thank goodness. We were just talking about that this morning. He's around so much more for Noah's day-to-day life than he was with the boys, because he worked full-time in an office or several offices when Kai was little. And now he's home. So he gets to see those little moments. So maybe we don't need to go through pictures of Noah, but we can talk about memories. And that's the thing that anchors us. And that's the thing that everything else kind of matters. But because that we've accomplished these beautiful, beautiful humans, and I think all the mothers that are listening and all the fathers that are listening can relate to this, like at the end of the day, that's the thing that matters most, is those humans that we created together, you know?
You know what? Now, yes, having children, it calmed me. It makes me feel like content in my, it's so, like I told you, I said I never knew I was going to be a mother. I was totally fine if I wasn't. But God, something about like seeing your creations turn into these kind, beautiful people, like I can't not smile at that. It's so incredible. And it's total magic. So yes, me and my husband, like we always look at each other like, what the fuck did we do? That's wild that we did that. I love you more than ever because we did that. Like it's wild.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talked about partnership, and obviously your partner, I think he's a big part of now. I see him so involved in all the work that you're doing. Is he a big part of the actual work too?
What's wild is that Vlad, my husband, he has his own job. He works a 9 to 5. He's a VP of technology. He does his thing. He has that. But as you guys know, because I work from home, it's all around me. My work is all around me. Diego, my son, is writing Fashion Mamas all over papers right now. Like that's his favorite thing to write because it's all around us. But the thing that Vlad does is he asks about what's coming up, what events coming up. He does the hard labor if I ever need it, like moving things. I have an amazing assistant, but he knows because if there's a fault I have many, but it's definitely asking for help. I am not good at it. I want to do everything all the time. But he'll always ask to help. And I always call him my muse. I call Vlad my muse because if I ever need a tipping point of a decision, I'm just like, I don't know. These logos look exactly the same, but like there's this one little thing. He can just walk by and go like that one. And for me, it feels good. It's not that I'm indecisive. I'm pretty decisive, but it feels good because I trust and respect his opinion.
Exactly.
And he's coming from not the obsessed, I've been looking at this logo for 10 hours. He's coming from instantly walking by, this feels right.
And knowing you and knowing your career and knowing your past and knowing your history and knowing all parts to you pre-children and knowing Fashion Mamas and its evolution, like there's something so beautiful in that trust. And I have that with the D too, with everything that I do. Like he is the final say on things. He is the final decision maker if I'm in between two ideas. Like he's also the finisher. Like I'm really good at starting stuff. I can really start some amazing projects. The finisher. He's the one that's like, all right, you gotta wrap this up. You gotta sign that thing. You got to send that in. You did all the work. You got to send it in and put a stamp on it. And I'm like, you put the stamp on it. And he's like, fine. And that's what we need. We need that partnership. And I think that behind every strong mama should be, and I'm going to say shoulds are not always great, but there should be a partner that's supporting, whether it's a strong husband, wife, partner, we all need someone behind us if we are going to take over the world in the ways that us as working moms are going to do.
And you're like me, Sophie, you don't have a co-founder. You're not too, no. I'm a single founder. So, but the silent partner, not silent, but like the true like backbone is definitely my husband in the 100%. Way of like, he thought of the name Mama Mirage for our Coachella event. He was just like, that sounds fun. And I like never discrediting all the hard work I've done, never discrediting that all of he's contributed. So it's just kind of like, he's been there and I so appreciate that. And same with him. If he ever needed something, I always tell him that I'm like, you've been my behind the scenes like forever.
Well, and what I've found is that even sometimes not the day-to-day things that a D does, but because he, since the beginning, has supported me. So even like, yes, in very tangible ways he supported me. Like when I first started doing philosophy in my kitchen 8-9 years ago, when I was making cleanse programs for people and driving all over the city, he didn't make a lot of money, but he brought in a regular paycheck and I wasn't able to bring in a regular paycheck. So my money went to like, okay, I've got $47. I'm going to buy some business cards, but he's the one that pushed me to get the business cards. He's like, I see there's $47 in your account. You should use that to get business cards. I'm like, oh, okay. Like you should really like get a website now. I'm like, okay. And then he does that. But those little things that allow, it's the yin and yang, but even more than that in the day-to-day things, the reason I am where I am is because of that silent sometimes support where it's like, he supports me. He's the one that had this idea that I should be getting paid to help people in this way anyway. Like having that support is definitely how I am where I am today.
Yeah, I was going to continue being a full-time editor-in-chief while running Fashion Mamas. 2 years in, I was like in over my head. And Vlad was like, I want you to know if you wanted to give this a shot and do just this, I've got your back. I believe in it a shit ton.
Yep.
And I think you can do it. And I was scared. Are you kidding? Not only to leave your like comfy, like 401k job, but also to jump into something that you created out of thin air. That's pretty wild. And I was like, you know what? Just because he gave me that boost, because it's him that gave me that boost, I'm going to jump. And it was the best decision I ever made. And now I've got him. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm right there with you. And it's been amazing. And you do need that encouragement. I never met my father. My mother, the moment she told her boyfriend that she was pregnant, he was out.
Oh, wow.
So I know all about like that partner is very helpful. I'm all for single mothers. Like I bow down to you. My mother would take the bus when I was 3 months old to get to work and drop me off at some sitter that she doesn't really vouch for. She wasn't really able to, like, who knows? I have some crazy memories. But she did what she could to put food on the table, all on her own every single day. Me, when I'm tired, I could say like, honey, just take both the kids right now. I need to breathe. She didn't have that.
No.
And I'm like, I have so much respect and love for every single mother out there because I cannot even imagine what they have to go through.
I know. Those nights, those newborn nights, those newborn crazy times when you're questioning your life and sleep deprived and not feeding yourself enough and not nourishing yourself, to not be able to take a shower and hand the baby to your partner or just have someone to cry on, like a shoulder to cry on. Like, I can't imagine.
But guess what? We have so many single mothers and Fashion Mamas. So many, actually.
Yeah, it's true.
And they come in to talk and they're like, I'm here for the event, but I'm also here because I know that every mother here would offer to hold my baby.
Hell yeah.
And I love seeing that happen. I see moms just like have the tiniest ones. And they're like, and then another mama that doesn't really know her, but seen her at enough events, like hand the baby over. And then that mama can go have a coffee and she can go talk and feel like an individual woman for a second.
Yeah.
Sophie mentioned this morning when you were talking about we're still stuck in the 50s. You had this phrase. I thought it was really, I don't know if you meant it this way, but it was like, we're not in the 50s anymore. It's now 50-50, which I thought was such an interesting.
Oh, I did say that.
Juxtaposition of the two. And that's what really comes through to me as you guys are talking is everything becomes 50-50. The bringing in of the money, 50-50. The responsibility about taking care of each other, the 50-50. Taking care of the kids, 50-50. And, that comes through because Sophie, whether it's your job as running philosophy or as an influencer or, me with Ignited or the companies before, it's like we need the other person's support. Even if they're not actively engaged in the business per se, we need their backing. We need their support. It's no longer this concept of I will take care of my side, you will take care of your side, and then we'll kind of meet in the middle for sex and meals,
Right, exactly.
Which is kind of, I feel like that's what it used to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning about, a couple of concepts that come up when you say that. But Adi and I have this, underlying theme since Kai was born, where I feel very strongly that we decided to have a child. And my perspective is that it's our child 50-50. I work and I bring in a lot of money some months, and other months I don't, but we're in this together. And never when I got pregnant did I think, I'm going to be the primary caregiver here. Like, that's the understanding, because that's just not what I was going into this with, that expectation of like, I'm in this with my partner. And unless we have an understanding where I'm going to stay at home and you're going to work, and like, that's an understanding too. And that's like an expectation. But my expectation in this and my understanding is we are in this together, 50-50 in everything. We'll both do the best we can in work, but also in parenting. And a lot of times, past programming, because his dad was not around, past programming for him was you handle all that stuff. So like, he just schedules work things and schedules meetings over like normal everyday kid stuff. And I'm like, why am I the expected one to handle this and deal with the babysitters and deal with, the daycare and deal with the classes, all the things that come with being a parent? He had no awareness that he was supposed to participate in those things. It just happens because his mom just did it all. And I get that. And on a good day, I have compassion for that. And on a bad day, it's a trigger for a lot of fights. And it's a trigger for a lot of like, who the fuck do you think you are? You're just going to have a baby and just expect it to be taken care of. And all that pressure is put on me. Totally. Hell no.
And for me, it was, we just came up. My dad was literally never around. And he wasn't around because he worked 2 jobs and then started his own business too. So it was 3 jobs by the time I was like 8. And so he was just working all the time. We would see him every Saturday morning for breakfast. That was it. That was the only time we would see him. No dinners, no school things. Maybe once in a while he'd make it to a school event, but we never really saw him other than that. And for me, I was like, what do you mean? I'm home for most dinners. I mean, now like I make them breakfast every morning. It was like you move, and I think this is kind of where Sophie's going with this. Like, you move from the script you had, but none of that was in consultation at all. Before we had the baby, we had 0 conversations about what is it going to look like to raise a kid, almost because we didn't know you're supposed to have the conversation. Sophie had her way of growing up. I had my way of growing up.
No parenting classes.
We essentially assumed it was going to be like the way we grew up, and nobody talks about it. So with Kai, it was definitely a huge separation. With Leo, it still was to some extent, but I was home more because I'd left the 4 or 5 jobs I had to coalesce a little bit around it. And now with Noah, it's a lot more of sharing because we've had this conversation now so many times that and I work from home now. So it's like the active and explicit responsibility taking happens because of the conscious effort and the work that we've done to bridge the gap between the programming we had growing up and the kind of parenting we want. I had this question with one of my clients once, and it immediately came to me that I should be talking to myself about this a lot more. It was, what do you want your kids' stories about their childhood to be like?
Right. Yeah.
And how are you making that life for them now? Because you can want it to be like whatever you imagine, but unless you put in the work now, what if their stories are, my dad was never around. He worked all the time. I don't fucking want that.
He wasn't present. He was on his phone all the time. Yeah. It's just, you don't want that. It also flies by so fast. Kai's 8.5. He's going to be 9 this year.
I can't even. Yeah.
What? He's going to be a preteen soon. And then he's going to be a teenager. Like, it flies by. How can we be the most present? How can we be the best parents and show up in the best capacity to bring us joy without as much conflict as possible? There's going to be conflict and there's going to be bumps along the way. But how can we show up to be the best parents we can be in partnership together? What agreements can we come up with and be creative? Like, you created your company out of thin air. I created philosophy out of thin air. We created these humans out of basically thin air. Like, these miracles, we can also parent from that place of discovery and creating our own rule book. And like, okay, you contribute in this way, I contribute in this way. I mean, at the same time, there is an innate maternal instinct where there are certain, like, D has to remind himself to show up as the dad that I need him to be and the kids need him to be. I don't need to remind myself. Like I'm just constantly thinking about them and their needs. I'm wondering right now what they're doing. A D hasn't had a second thought this morning. They're at a sleepover right now. His brain isn't consumed by what are they doing? How are they? How's Leo doing? How are the parents at the sleepover? What have they eaten? Did they have enough nutrition? This is the constant thing as a mom. And I can't stop doing that because that comes with the blood. It comes with the territory. But how can we come together as two supportive forces, just as they support us in our businesses and our careers and our passions? How can we parent in this present day in a modern way?
Yeah, I feel like communication is an absolute game changer. There's a lot of unspoken thoughts that happen in relationships. I feel that I was very like the moment that Diego was born, I was like, I felt triggered to come at it really aggressively, like, oh no, like you're gonna do both things. The only reason I want to come from there is because I was so scared because I didn't have a father. So I'm going to scare him into helping me.
Mm-hmm. You're not going anywhere.
Right, exactly. It was like, you are locked in and you're going to do this and that. And I'm like, wait, let me talk to my love of my life, like a human being, and be like, look, and instead of going like, how could you not organically want to do everything?
Yeah.
It's not maternal instinct.
No.
Paternal instinct is a lot different. And so I came, instead of coming at him, I met him halfway.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I see how your dad was around your mother.
Yeah.
And it was very much like he comes home from work, mom cooks, mom cleans, he leaves for work, like all those things that happen. And I said, like, I am determined for us to have a modern household. We're going to cook together. We're going to clean together. You're going to change diapers. You're going to do all the things with me. It's not me bossing you around. It's me like, don't you want to set an example for your child?
Like, right? I love changing diapers. I love connecting to my kids. I'm honest. Like,
yeah, I love it.
My kids, I don't know what it was like for Vlad, but like my kids were probably the first time that I really understood what it meant to care about something outside of my own reality. I was so focused on doing up until that point that it really wasn't until Kai was born that different awareness came in, and I wanted to participate more. And yet what Sophie is saying is true, that happens when I'm with my kid in the moment. If I'm able to be present and consistent, which what I hear from Sophie is her mind doesn't stop going to that place. And that is something that I have to train in myself. It's just not automatic.
Exactly.
Right,
and
yeah. And
going back to what you were saying with communication, like that's where like the expectation, I have this expectation and this need for you to be this kind of, for you to be this kind of a dad for our children. This is what I need. And not just expecting him to show up in a way that like he has no person showing him, displaying to him the way to act and be. He doesn't have that in his history. He wasn't programmed that way.
Right, right, exactly.
How would he know if I don't tell him?
Right, exactly. And I feel also that there is nothing wrong with making them feel appreciated. Like I've also heard the conversations of, why do you have to say like good job to them? I do this every day.
Totally.
They're wired differently.
Yeah.
So I see nothing wrong with, after my husband, like he's with Rio right now, taking her for a stroll while she naps, when he comes back saying, thank you so much for giving me that time. You're a rock star. You are my partner and I love you. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've also heard the other side that's like, don't give them that because you do everything all the time. And I'm like, I feel good when I show him that I appreciate that. Because he tells me like, by the way, you are killing it.
Yeah, exactly. I think also there's a difference in like, thank you so much for babysitting and you know, versus
you're a good
thank you for having my back.
yeah, like you're a good, like we've got this. Exactly. I look at when me and Vlad communicate, it's more like you are my rule dog. You are my partner and we got this. Like, yeah, like we got this.
Have each other. And we're constantly like we're walking, we both work from home. So I'll like I put in his schedule when I need him to be with Noah, if our au pair or if we don't have help or something. So I'll have like, 1 to 2:30, you're with the kids because I have to run out and do this thing. And then I know I'm with them before. So we have handoffs all the time. And like, we'll be like, thank you. Okay. See you soon. Love you. We've got each other's back. And it's like saying thank you is just a mirror for the way you'd also like to be treated. Don't you want to be thanked for what you do? Yes, you're the mom and you birth these humans, but that doesn't mean that you inherently are the best mom ever. It takes effort. It takes work. And we also want to be seen and heard. So by us seeing and hearing our partners, it's only going to reflect back to us.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just feel like it's very important to keep the lines of communication open. We've had therapy before. It's awesome. I think it's great to just be able to have a sounding board and say out loud how you feel.
And find the tools to manage things on your own. It's like,
oh yeah.
For me, it's like therapy has always been a practice, especially when I went with a D. It's a practice for how we can show up to each other differently. Like I catch myself still to this day with the therapist we had several years ago, catching myself in little things that he taught us and that we practiced. In the room, like one of his biggest things was don't get caught up in the details. And I hear myself, even when I go into a conversation or a fight or something with like a best friend, I'll start to kind of rehearse where I'm going to go and like tell my story. And then I'm like, well, I'm getting caught up in the details. That's not what matters. What's underneath that? And I hear the therapist asking, what's underneath that feeling? And what's underneath that feeling? And what's there? And that's really what matters is I'm feeling hurt, betrayed. I feel, whatever it is that I'm feeling, it's not about the story and how we got here. That doesn't matter as much. What really matters is the core issue. Yeah. So I feel like therapy is great as long as you don't use it as a crutch. You're not going twice a week till the day you die. Like, no, let's have a therapist who teaches us things. We get to practice it in therapy and then slowly but surely it's there for maintenance,
Exactly. I feel like the few times we ever went, it's like, it's a workout and you learn the move and you just have the move with you. And it becomes second nature. A big thing for us was we're always on the same team because kids can kind of want to pit you against one another sometimes. Like, well, daddy said I can have the cookie and you can't play the good cop, bad cop game. So whatever side one of us takes, we have to be on the same team. So Diego doesn't decide to find a way to side with one of us.
Or manipulate.
We are like armed together. Yeah. So that's a big, and then I can go upstairs with him and be like, honey, I'm not in love with cookies in the morning. Like, that. But because we're on the same team, he got his cookies this morning.
Yep. And that support, like that's what the kid wants. He doesn't care about the cookie. At the end of the day, when he's 17, he's not going to be like, oh, I didn't get enough cookies in the morning or whatever it was. At the end of the day, when he's 17 years old, he's going to be feeling, wow, my parents were really there for me. I really have that grounded sense of belonging. I know, like, I am confident in who I am because my mom and dad showed up for me and were present and we're on the same team. That feels good. That's forever lasting. The thing isn't really of the most importance. So for us to get like, what's the expression? Our feathers in a bunch or whatever, like our panties in a bunch. I just combined two different expressions.
Ruffled your feathers and your panties in a bunch.
Okay.
Our feathers in a bunch.
Or feathers in a bunch. Maybe they're sticking together. Like, who knows?
So cute. I visualized that right now.
Like cute. A peacock. Like a peacock's feather,
That's so cute, actually.
But yeah, I feel like it's just all about being on the same team, like you said, and just like,
we're not perfect by any means, though.
No, and also I just think that a really big other theme in parenting, as like people who work and have their own lives and their own passions, another huge layer of parenting is that intimate connection between you and your partner. And I think that it's not talked about enough. I think that sex, connecting intimately, having your own life of date nights and going out without children, like the minute that baby was out of my body, I couldn't wait to go out with my husband and find ourselves again, because that's what started this whole thing. That's the seed that started it all, is our love between us.
Yeah.
And the minute that spark is gone, then like everyone can feel it.
Then you're just caregivers together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like my thing, it takes minimal effort. I just need throughout the day, like big, like hugs from my man.
Yeah.
You know, and we do like full body hugs. Like I need, because I hug babies all day. I need his hug. I need to feel his body close to me. Mm-hmm. And if I feel that, it feels like the first day like our first date.
Yeah.
And it matters to me. And sometimes I get caught up in my head and I'm just like, I don't want anyone around me at all, mm-hmm. And that's just like a human thing. But something that happened early on when Diego was in the thick of 2, like the 2 years old, like benchmark, that's like a pretty wild time. I learned to check in with him because I was so caught up in, all Diego all the time, and he learned to check in with me to make sure like I have all the help I need. Cause like I said, I don't ask for help much. So the checking in with one another matters so much, instead of the like, read my mind. If you don't check in with me right now, you don't care what is happening. Like I'm not happy because you're not doing this and that. Communication, it all comes back to that, because you carry this resentment and this like mind reading expectation. You're never going to get anywhere at all.
Because it's impossible. We can't read minds. And, I hear myself when I'm in a not very strong place be like, after 15 years, you still don't know what I want. It's so simple. Like, it's the same reoccurring things, but it's like, no, he can't read your mind. Okay, put that aside, because it's not serving anyone to keep coming back to like, ugh, how are you not knowing what I'm feeling right now? Like, because you didn't tell me.
And then I've seen these memes of like a woman's mind and a man's mind. And it says like a woman's mind is like, I have to pick them up from school. I have to do this. I have to go get the groceries, da, da, da. And then like a man's mind is kind of like, what should I eat for lunch?
Yep. 100%.
I'm hungry. Should I get a haircut today?
Yep.
Like the way the men, and I'm not dumbing down the men's thoughts. I just think that they move like decision to decision so much more like carefully. Women, we multitask like crazy. And sometimes we're giving like 50% of our efforts to a million things, or, like slice it percentage wise, however, 10% of our efforts to 10 things.
Yeah.
And it's just, I sometimes admire that train of thought, but I also love this superpower of being able to like get a lot done in a minimal amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's understanding your partner, being different than who you are, and dropping the expectations of like, you should be doing X, Y, and Z. And instead coming at it like, I'm going to communicate with you with my needs. And then you have a chance to actually meet them because you know what it is I need.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any kind of go-tos with Vlad? Like, is there a date night that you guys that just kind of gets you going? Is there like what are your secrets to successful marriage and keeping things like passionate and sexy and just really keeping that spark going so that you're not just caretakers?
I think like from the very what is it called? From the vanity perspective, I think we really take care of ourselves. So like like we keep ourselves well groomed. It's such a small thing, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like self-care is so important to us. He keeps himself polished. He takes his workouts at this point are like reservoir walks. And then mine is I work out when I can, but those things make us both feel individually confident. Therefore we feel confident together and being intimate with one another. And when we have our date nights, they are a game changer because it's our time to be able to be just like those fun kids that we were before kids.
Exactly.
And and it means so much because before everything, like that was our way of connecting. Like we lived for the nightlife, like when we were younger. So when we get to go have dinner, the dinners are earlier than they used to be, but it still makes us feel that way. Getting dressed up, having a reason to dress up, it feels really good. And
it's like a re-remembering.
Yes, exactly. And
why are we doing this? Why did we make these babies to begin with?
Exactly. Like why, like, let's think about why we're together. Does it feel good when we're alone? Or are we like, this doesn't feel the same?
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't feel the same, we need to scale back and think about what is happening.
And make some adjustments. And it's okay to make adjustments. As we change and evolve, it's okay to make adjustments. Like the way that I need a D to be involved now with 3 kids and me working all these businesses and the amount that I'm giving and providing for this family energetically, I need him to step up more. And that's just the way it is right now. If down the line is a little bit different and like he's bringing in more of the money and I'm able to relax a little more into my parenting and just, everything's on, a different spectrum of ins and out, waves.
Ebbs and flows, for sure.
Ebbs and flows. Checking in is key.
Yeah, we're at this moment where it's all high impact, everything happening. Rio is 8 months. Our business, Fashion Mamas, has never been more eyes on it. And it's just all happening right now. And the most that he can give me is his encouragement and his support when I don't ask for help. And just being like, the big thing about him that I'm so grateful for, and, I would definitely speak up if it wasn't happening, is that he says, don't be so hard on yourself. Take care of yourself. I want a happy wife before anything. So how can we get you there? If you need that time to do your workouts, I don't know. Well, I'm talking to the one when it comes to active. But when I'm not active, I feel like depleted. I need to move my body. So he reminds me, like, if you want to go do that, like, please, I want you to take care of yourself. Because, we get caught up. We want to do everything.
Yep.
And sometimes there's sacrifices that are made, especially when business is at the highest impact. You want to maximize that opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I will make a lot of sacrifices in order to keep that momentum going, because nothing should be taken for granted. No one could care tomorrow. No one could care tomorrow. So I'm going to enjoy it now at this second.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely.
So we ask I love this conversation. We could talk forever about parenting, but we always ask all of our listeners, our guests, for our listeners, 5 questions.
Ooh.
You ready?
Yes, I love a fire round. Let's do
a fire round and whatever comes to mind first. So what is the best advice that you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received is to keep my head down and to let my success be my noise. So to not consider and compare myself to others, just work hard and then reveal itself. Like, here's all my hard work and the big, amazing thing that I was doing while you guys were all arguing about who's better.
Yep. Love that.
Love it.
Love that.
That's awesome. What has been one of your proudest moments to date?
Ooh, my proudest moment. Besides like the kid, like giving birth to the children, or
if that could be.
Oh my goodness. Oh, my proudest moment to date was probably recent. My firstborn, who is like, Diego is like the love of our life. My firstborn walking in the fashion show of the production that my business that I created. So like my son walking on the stage of my creation was like blowing my mind. I was like, what?
That's so awesome.
So that was the most beautiful thing. And him strutting like he owned the place. I was like, this is beautiful. Everything happening in this moment. Let me take it all in.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it.
So beautiful. What about your hardest moment?
My hardest moment was last week. We're just going to be really recent at this point. My memory is like shot. But my hardest moment was last week. Both kids were sick. I was sick. I went to the doctor 5 times in 1 week. and I cried a lot. And also work was very in demand. So I had no time to not be doing those things. But I also I want healthy babies before everything. So nothing else mattered at all. And I'm barely coming out of like the dark of that time. But I was just like, oh, this is it. I'm depressed for the rest of my life.
Right.
But no, the moment like everyone's cough went away and the sun started shining, I'm like, and we're back.
Totally.
Exactly. We need that perspective. I just talked to someone the other day, a mom on Instagram. She like commented on something and she doesn't normally comment. And then I was like, how are you doing today, mama? And like, we don't talk that often. She was like, thank you for asking. I'm not doing great. All 3 of my kids are sick right now and it's really dark. And I was like, do you have some help? Can you get some self-care? And like, just that honest conversation of like, what do you need? Like as mom to mom, like just a reminder that like you're not alone and you're not trapped and this will end and there's an end in sight. But like, I'm sure it doesn't feel like that right now. Like, you know, I think in those darkest moments, being able to reach out to a community or a support system, a friend, a mama, and just be like, hey, this is where I'm at. And more importantly, even having friends that can do that and check in and have that person that is there for you, you know, and like,
yeah, that's something I want to be more vulnerable about, like sharing those moments. Like if you looked on my Instagram right now, there's no trace of being sick, but there's also no trace of like imperfection. There's like definitely like, this was hard, that was hard. When it comes to being sick, for some reason, I was just like, it's the season. I don't want to bother other people with it. But then in perspective, I'm like, I bet there's other mothers that are like, oh, cool, she gets sick too.
Exactly. Like exactly. Yeah, that's why I think that I like have the most power in my vulnerability because I see what it does for other people. It's not even about me sharing. I'm just like, whatever. I just share open book regardless. I don't need to be sharing that. I just see that when I do share in those vulnerable ways, it allows other people to have permission to show up and either privately through DM be like, thank you for sharing that. I've been feeling that.
Yeah.
Or publicly be like, wow. And then they do a post that's like, I was inspired to share this today. And that, you know, like whatever it is, or I had an amazing, amazing conversation with my partner tonight based on that thing you said. Thank you so much for starting that ball. Like being vulnerable about the bad times and the good is so important.
You're right too. And if we're talking about like visually seeing the connection and the impact it makes, like the 2 recent times that I was able to be vulnerable with sharing Rio's helmet journey. Mm-hmm. So when she had torticollis and she had to wear a helmet for 8 weeks, and then breastfeeding in public, just because when Rio was really tiny and because I had mastitis 3 times with Diego, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to even risk engorgement. So I'm going to pop my boob out anytime. And of course, the one stage that I was on happened to be while I was having a good discussion with Dr. Harvey Karp, and my boob is out. I mean, it couldn't have been a better support system than Dr. Harvey, but it like that image spread like wildfire. And controversial or not, a lot of women came up and they were like, that just made me feel safe and okay to feed when my baby is hungry.
Yep.
So those conversations. So it was a little taste of what Sophie does every single day.
Yeah, you're the best. Okay, and then as a busy mama, entrepreneur of 2, wife, woman in this world, what are your self-care rituals?
I take as long a shower as possible. The steam feels so good. I could just sit in there and just like think. I love it. And there's nothing else you can do. You cannot check your phone in the shower.
Yeah.
So I love doing that. I also love to work out when I can. And I also love writing. I really miss that. So that I'm able to expand my mind in a different way. But yeah, so showers, that, and what else do I do? Oh, and like a fun face mask. I love that. Like it just feels good. And I feel like even you just slap it on your face, you feel like I did my self-care ritual.
Exactly.
It feels like you took that extra step. You took the extra step.
It's a ritual. Even cleaning your face, like all of it feels very cleansing and like you're taking a pause.
And sex.
That
feels really like, that is just like, oh, this is like, you can be as vulnerable as you want. And this is like truly me.
It's
with
raw.
The person that helped me start it all.
Yeah. It's so true. So beautiful. And then our last question, our podcast is called Ignited. What ignites you?
What ignites me is helping women every day see the power within themselves and know that they can do anything that they put their minds to, with our support, with other support, and yeah, women can truly do anything they put their mind to, especially in today's society. They just have to really have the drive behind them, and I want to be that extra boost for them, and it really gets me going. I'm not like, no bullshit. Like, it really just it blows my mind and makes me feel so gracious all the time.
Well, you are that person for so many of us. So thank you for what you do and for being in my life. And we love you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I love you guys.
Oh, wait, there's one more thing we wanted to mention. You have something exciting coming up. This is going to be, this will be before the summit.
Yep.
So on June 8th, we're having our third Mom is Making It Summit. And it's our large scale conference where women can find ways to boost their careers and their connections. They can find more information at fashionmamas.com/summit.
Perfect. We will put a link in the show notes. Thank you, Natalie. We love you so much.
Thank you. I love you guys, and I'm so proud of you. This is so awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening and paying attention.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.